We all know Rock Lee gets a massive power boost after a couple of shots of vodka, but what if he opened the 8 gates while using the Drunken Fist? What exactly would happen and how powerful would he be? We don't know for certain if Lee can open the 8 gates while drunk. It might be difficult to do it in that state, especially Lee, who becomes someone else entirely after a sip of alcohol. But let's assume that for whatever reason Rock Lee can activate the gates while drunk. First, we have to analyze how much stronger he gets when using the Drunken Fist by itself. Unfortunately, we only saw him doing that one time, which is a total shame if you ask me. However, his fight with Kimimaro was a pretty good indicator as to Drunk Lee's strength. In that fight, we saw that base Rock Lee couldn't do anything against Kimimaro. He was absolutely outmatched. Later in the fight, when Lee sobers up, he realizes he will have to do more than simply his base form to do anything against Kimimaro, so he decides to open the first gate. He initiates the primary lotus, but Kimimaro blocks it with shocking ease. That same Kimimaro, base Kimimaro by the way, was able to fend off hundreds of Naruto shadow clones imbued with some QB chakra, and he did so with extreme ease as well. Let me remind you that in the first chapter or episode of the series, Naruto stomped a Chunin with that same technique, and he wasn't even using the QB chakra. And Naruto himself was leagues below the Naruto that fought Kimimaro. I mean, it was the first episode Naruto, he was a baby essentially. When you take into account the QB chakra all clones were shown to be using against Kimimaro, the strength of those clones was probably hundreds of times higher than the strength Naruto used against Mizuki, and still Kimimaro didn't even flinch. Also, the QB chakra in Naruto alone was able to defeat people like Haku and Neji, so imagine it distributed in hundreds of clones. Judging by his feats, I think it's easy to put base Kimimaro in Jonin tier. Obviously, he's not as strong as people like Kakashi or Guy, but he is definitely far above Chunin level. Orochimaru even had enough confidence in Kimimaro that he wanted to bring him to the fight against Hiruzen, and didn't do so just because of Kimimaro's sickness. So Kimimaro had enough power to at least hold his own against the most powerful Kage at the time. And this is corroborated by two facts. The first being that Kimimaro actually assisted Orochimaru in killing the 4th Kazekage, and second, Kimimaro was fighting KCM1 Naruto head-on in the War Arc, while he was still fighting Samurai and other ninjas of the Alliance, and he was doing just fine against KCM1 Naruto. KCM1 Naruto, who casually fought Kage-level opponents, including actual Kages like the 3rd Raikage and the 2nd Tsuchikage. KCM1 Naruto, even though a shadow clone, the version that was fighting Kimimaro, was also strong enough to compete against people like Sasuke with the EMS. And Kimimaro, as an Edo Tensei, was not defeated by Naruto in the War Arc. He was released by Itachi when he defeated Kabuto. So, well, we can say that Edo Tensei Kimimaro lasted hours against KCM1 Naruto. A Jonin level fighter would easily be able to deal with Naruto QB clones and First Gate Lee, and that's exactly what we see, so it all makes sense. Knowing all that, when we analyze Kimimaro's fight against Drunk Fist Rock Lee, things change wildly. Not only is Lee able to easily avoid every single attack Kimimaro throws against him, but he is also able to press Kimimaro enough to put him on the defensive. Lee's drunken state didn't last for very long during the fight, but while he was drunk, he forced Kimimaro to activate the first state of the curse mark to provide him with a boost in speed and strength. Otherwise, he wouldn't be able to deal kill with Drunk Lee. Using the curse mark was something Kimimaro didn't even think of doing when facing hundreds of QB-powered shadow clones or base Lee, so it is easy to conclude that Drunk Fist Lee is far more powerful than First Gate, Weightless Lee, and, well, all those QB clones we saw. And by the way, if you enjoy content like this, please subscribe to the channel so you never miss anything in the future, and you help me a lot as well. Thanks. And like the video, just for good measure. Now, you may say that Rock Lee was nerfed during his battle against Kimimaro, and that's true. He had been through Tsunade surgery and wasn't fighting at his best. He himself admitted that he was not able to fight at full power. However, these same conditions also apply to Drunk Lee. There is an argument to be made that alcohol may enable Lee to push through his limitations and inhibit his pain, which is definitely true in real life. But regardless, the difference in strength between First Gate Lee and Drunk Fist Lee is just astounding, and it would overshadow anything alcohol could do to numb the pain. Imagine if Lee wasn't nerfed for that fight. He would be an absolute menace. But why is Drunk Lee so strong? Well, it has a lot to do with the unpredictability of his movement. Kimimaro acknowledges that, saying that Lee's movement patterns changed completely after he drank the sake, and we can clearly see how unpredictable and counterintuitive Drunk Lee can be while fighting. He's very deceiving, and fighting Drunk Lee in that state in a taijutsu fight is a ninja's worst nightmare. Lee's speed also increases dramatically when he's drunk, and I have to assume his reaction time and even precognition are also boosted because Lee is literally evading Kimimaro's combos with his eyes shut, which is extremely impressive. I like to imagine that if Drunk Lee fought a Sharingan user, reading his movements with a Sharingan would be extremely difficult. It would be like when Sasuke was trying to read One-Tailed Kyuubi Cloak Naruto's moves, but he couldn't do it properly because the Kyuubi chakra had a will of its own. However, in Lee's case, the alcohol would have a will of its own, moving Lee's body in the most erratic, difficult ways to read imaginable, and the Sharingan user would just be pounded. I wouldn't go as far as to say that Drunk Lee is Jonin level like Kimimaro. After all, he is a complete loose cannon and unreliable as a shinobi in that state, but his raw strength might be reaching that level. So now, when he opens the gates in that state, what would happen? Absolute mayhem. The gates unlock the full capability of your muscles, and then block pain receivers so you don't feel the pain while using that strength and tearing your muscle fibers. They then exponentially increase your strength and speed the further you open them. That would already give an extreme power boost to a base user. Just check out Lee vs. Gurren, you know what I mean. When Lee opened the 5th gate in that fight, he became hundreds of times more powerful than his base form. It's just that now we are slapping these gates on a Rock Lee that is absolutely unpredictable, has a much higher speed and reaction time, and uses more complex and difficult to read taijutsu combos, and completely disregards his own safety and everything around him while fighting. Could you imagine Drunk Lee using those exotic attacks that were already very strong but now powered up by the 8 gates? I mean, he would have likely killed Kimimaro in 2 seconds, and I don't think he would need to go too far into the gates to do that. The first, maybe the second gates would be enough for Drunk Lee to demolish CM1 Kimimaro. Imagine if he wasn't nerfed by this surgery. The 8 gates would just make Lee so erratic and unpredictable that he would probably be able to take on almost anyone in a taijutsu fight. Seriously, Drunk Lee with no gates is already very fast, so adding the gates on top of that would just add to destructive potential, speed and all that. Regular Lee with the gates open would be absolutely stomped by Drunk Lee with the gates. He wouldn't be able to deal with Drunk Lee's movements, and that applies to most other fighters as well. The alcohol can also work in favor of Lee when he opens the gates because it might mitigate the pain of the side effects caused by the gates, and maybe Lee would be able to use the gates longer while he's drunk. What would Lee be able to do if he used that? Who would he be able to take on? Well, in Shippuden, Lee blitzes and kicks Madara in half. That Madara was by a long shot the strongest character we had ever seen up until that point in the series. This feat is insane. Lee was just amped by a standard QB cloak and no gates. Maybe one or two were open because we didn't see any visible indications of further gates being opened, but still, not much at all. So if when he had this QB Chakram, by the way, who was completely ineffective against Kimimaro when Naruto used it, and he was able to freaking kick Madara in half, imagine what he would have accomplished with the Drunken Fist and the gates, which are just a much larger taijutsu amp than a QB cloak. Madara wouldn't like that. I don't think he would like that very much. He would be in very, very big trouble. And on top of that, imagine if Lee knew how to open the 8th final gate. He would probably become the strongest ninja ever for a couple of minutes. Let's just say that if Lee knew how to open the 8th gate and had a bottle of vodka during the war arc, he could have ended the story much earlier. It's just a shame that we barely got to see him in Shippuden. So what do you think? Am I delusional for saying that? Leave your comments and theories down below about what would happen when Lee does that. If you want to watch another Rock Lee video, by all means, click on the video showing up on the screen. Also, if you enjoy the content, consider liking the video and subscribing to the channel. Thanks for watching.